The one question I get asked the most is probably without a doubt how they can get started in cryptocurrency mining or just cryptos or NFTs in general. And I never really have a good answer for that. So I figured the best way to kind of help answer that for a lot of people would be to just kind of give my backstory and how I got started in the crypto world. So I got started back in, it would have been late 2016 or early 2017. It was my sophomore year in college. And basically I was looking at rebuilding my gaming computer. And once I got that first graphics card in my computer for gaming, I then actually rediscovered cryptocurrency mining. I had found out about it in the past at some point. I just had remembered it, and I remembered I was rediscovering it, and I never really thought it would be worth it in the past just because of how little it was paying out. But at this time, the current graphics card that I got, it was a 1080. It was making, I want to say it was somewhere around $5 a day, so I thought it was actually decent and something worth looking into. So at that time, I was actually living off campus because I had just had my son the summer before that. And essentially, because I was living off campus, I was able to pull out some of my tuition money that would typically go to like room and board. I was able to pull that out for my living expenses and for my family's living expenses since I wasn't actually living on campus. Also at the time, I was actually living in one half of my grandparents' duplex. My grandparents had owned a duplex, hadn't had anyone living in the other side for a few years at that point, and essentially said that I could move in and live there so I could kind of get going and get on my feet a little bit and make it through college without having to worry about my expenses too much. So at that point, I didn't have to pay rent. I didn't have a car payment or anything like that, so I was doing pretty well on expenses, and I was just able to save up quite a bit of my money even with having a son. And essentially I was still working part-time even though I was in college and playing baseball at the time, so I was able to just save up quite a bit through that point. So that's about when I decided that I was going to give cryptocurrency mining a shot, and essentially I went out and I bought my first 6 graphics cards. They were all 6 1060 3GB version cards. They were making about $3 a day for a total of about $18 a day for all 6 of them together. And so I just kind of let that sit and build for a little bit. At that point, once I had a little bit accumulated and I started looking at more and more graphics cards and getting into a second rig, and the people I was talking to about it, basically everyone thought I was crazy. The only person that really agreed with me that it was a good idea was essentially my dad, who I talked to regularly. And pretty much everyone else, all my friends, all thought I was crazy and that Bitcoin was a scam and that it wasn't going to go anywhere or do anything. And basically I just didn't listen to them, and I listened to myself and what I knew and what I had researched, and I just kind of pushed through it, and I ended up going with and getting that second rig. I got another 6 1060s. This time I made sure to get the 6GB cards because I learned that because the profitability was a little bit lower than what I was expecting. Just because of that first rig, I didn't realize that there was a difference between the 3GB cards and the 6GB cards. Again, I was brand new to it at that point, so I just made an early mistake. At this point, I had 2 full rigs of 1060s of 6 cards per rig going, and I had my gaming desktop with one 1080 in it going, and I decided that I was actually going to look into bigger cards, more 1080s, just because they were making a little bit more a day than the 1060s were. So that's when I started buying a card at a time as my profits came in. And at this point, I actually found a 1080 Ti on sale for at the 1080 price on Newegg. I just kind of think that it was an error, a mess up, because I went and I bought it right away as soon as I saw it. I just had the money sitting, waiting. I was looking for a good deal, happened to find it, buy it right away. I checked it about a half hour later, and the price had jumped up over double what it already was. And so I just think I got super lucky, and I did end up getting that 1080 Ti in the mail, and that's what I currently still have in my gaming PC. I just switched out the 1080 for the 1080 Ti, and I just got super lucky on that deal. So around that point, after I got that 1080 rig completely built, I was sitting at 3 rigs. I had 2 1060s and one 1080 rig, and at that point I was making quite a bit a day, and I actually then discovered the Asus B250 Mining Expert board. Essentially, you could hold 16 graphics cards on that one board. Every other gaming board essentially is capped out at about 6 cards. So at that point I was like, I'm definitely going to try this, I'm definitely going to go for it. And I got that board, and then I started buying 1060s to go onto it. So over time, as I was filling up that board of the 1060s, once I hit about, it was around 8 to 10 graphics cards on one board, I started having some issues. It wasn't being very stable, and I just wasn't knowing what was wrong. I now know that most likely it was just the fact that the SATA cables weren't getting everything enough power. But essentially, I just ran into issues, And at that point, the profitability was starting to go down as well, and I was running low on time. I wasn't able to work on them as frequently because at that time it was like the heart of baseball season, and I just didn't have time to mess with them or do much for them. So I kind of got them as stable as I could, and then I kind of just left them alone for a really long time. I actually had somewhere around 3 to 4 graphics cards not running for basically that whole time after that. Just the profitability was down. I wasn't as interested in it at that point. I was super busy with life and just baseball and college and everything. And I actually never really got back to the graphics cards again until I went to move from Illinois to South Dakota. When I was packing everything up to move from Illinois to South Dakota, that's actually when I discovered that 3 of my power supplies had been fried essentially from the SATA cables, because the SATA cables weren't able to provide enough electricity to the cards, and it just ruined 3 power supplies. Luckily, 2 of them were still new enough that I was able to get 2 of them replaced. One of them, the cheaper one, I wasn't able to get replaced, which wasn't that big of a deal, but it still sucked. After I moved here to South Dakota and figured out that it was the SATA cables was the issue, I then found out how to actually properly power the cards, which is basically just using a 6-pin if it's available, or a Molex if not. At worst case scenario, you'd use the Molex, and since then that's what I've kind of replaced it as. I got everything back up and running, and I haven't had any issues with anything really ever since then. Everything's been really stable. I have 2 rigs that are kind of not working 100% of the time. I'm not sure what exactly it is. My guess is just a software thing. I've updated them recently though, and haven't had any problems with them since. At that point, after moving to South Dakota, I had a little over $10,000 accumulated from just mining income. And essentially what I had done is I just decided I was going to use about half of that to pay off essentially all my debt that I had accumulated through college on my credit cards. And so I used about $5,000, maybe a little less than that, to pay off credit card debt. And at that point, I also decided that I was going to get another rig. So I used the other $5,000 to go through and buy the pieces for a new rig. And I also redid some electrical in my basement for the rig so that I could hold up to 10 rigs in my basement. And so that pretty much brings us to current day. I still have all the pieces for that new rig. I still don't have it set up yet. It's been sitting for about a month and a half. I just haven't had the time. I'm hoping that I will have the time here in the next few days, actually, to the next week or so. It's in winter. Now I've been just focusing on doing these videos for everyone. And essentially I had my landscaping business that I had started this last spring. And now with it getting into winter, I obviously don't really have much work, as here in South Dakota it does get very cold, so there isn't any landscaping work that needs done, so I have quite a bit of time off. So I do plan on getting that rig built and finished in the next few days, hopefully week or so at most. But ever since I did get those pieces for that next rig, I've been using essentially all of my mining income to go into NFTs, and then now I just recently bought my first strong node, and I actually think the strong node's going to be a better investment than like the mining is at this point in time. And I'm just really excited to see where that takes me, and I can't wait to keep getting deeper and deeper into NFTs in the crypto world. But so essentially for now going forwards, what my plan is to just get that next rig built and then let all my rigs stay up and running, and essentially they're going to pay for any type of gas fees that I need to cover with a strong node, and basically they're going to fund my investment into NFTs. And I plan on my one strong node waiting the 3 months until I have enough to reinvest and get a second one, and then I want to get a third one, and then at that point that will be about 6 months away. I'm going to kind of reassess and see where I'm at and see if I want to go into more nodes or just start taking some profits at that point. For a little bit farther along goals, I want to get between 5 and 10 strong nodes up and running and essentially have them completely paid off. That way they're making me passive income. And then I want to get my basement, the new electrical that I have done, it can hold up to 10 rigs, and I want to get those completely filled up and have all 10 rigs running. That'll bring in, essentially those 10 rigs will be more than enough to pay for all of my expenses with just those 10 rigs alone. And then if I have the nodes on top of that, I'll have plenty of extra income that I can then go around and invest into more rigs, more nodes, or NFTs at that point. I'm just kind of going to reassess and see where all it takes me and see what I'm interested in when I'm able to. So that's been my journey into crypto so far. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, or just any questions in general about how you're looking at getting started, please go ahead and leave them in the comment section. I'll do my best to get back to you as quick as I can. I want to take this time to thank everyone for watching and give an extra thank you to everyone that has commented, liked, and subscribed. It really means a lot and it really helps my channel grow, and I just appreciate it so much. So thank you, and I'll see you all in the next video.